Okay, picture this. You've planned the perfect trip, everything's set, and then boom, unexpected rain washes out your plans. Or maybe it's the opposite. Scorching sun making that packed itinerary just, well, feel a bit much. Knowing what to expect weather-wise is absolutely key, right? And that's exactly why we're diving deep today. Now, this deep dive was brought to you by ProCare Hanoi. They're the phone and laptop repair shop that the expat community here really trusts. Think fast service, clear communication, and, honest advice. Exactly what you need if your tech decides to sweat it out in the humidity. And just before we probably jump in, a quick note about supporting this show. It's truly a labor of love putting these deep dives together. And if you found value in any of them, well, I'd really appreciate your support. Buy me a coffee is probably the simplest way to just say thanks. Trust me, every single cup helps keep me going. You can just scan the QR code in the podcast cover art. And for those who've already chipped in, a massive thanks. Seriously, you're fueling this whole journey. So today's mission, we're exploring Vietnam's, well, fascinating and often quite surprising weather. We're talking storms, intense rains, and then brilliant sunshine, sometimes all quite close together. Our source material today is a really in-depth guide that looks at understanding Vietnam's different climate zones and, crucially, how they impact travelers and folks living here. Basically, we want to equip you with the key insights to navigate Vietnam's diverse weather, hopefully making your experiences, smoother and just more enjoyable whatever the forecast throws at you.
Yeah, and what's really striking, I think, is just how much the weather can vary across, a single country, especially one as long as Vietnam. And understanding that geographical spread, that difference from north to south, it's so crucial because you genuinely can't just talk about Vietnam's weather as one thing. You really have to be specific about where you're going or where you are.
It's such a good point. I mean, Vietnam is incredibly long. It stretches, over 1,600 kilometers from north to south? Yeah. To give you some perspective, that's like driving from, say, Denmark all the way down to southern Spain. So yeah, it completely stands to reason the weather would be drastically different.
Exactly. And connecting that to the bigger picture, like I said, no generalizations allowed. Our sources, they basically break it down into 3 pretty distinct climate zones, and each one has its own rhythm, its own rainy season, storm patterns, dry spells. You've got northern Vietnam, think Hanoi, Ha Long Bay, maybe up in the mountains like Sapa. Then there's central Vietnam, that's Da Nang, Hue, Hoi An. And finally, southern Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City, the Mekong Delta, islands like Phu Quoc down there.
Okay, right. Let's maybe unpack this region by region then. Starting up North Hanoi, Sapa, Ha Long. Now, I think a lot of people just assume Vietnam is tropical year-round. So is it really true this northern part gets 4 distinct seasons? That sounds, pretty surprising. It absolutely is surprising for many first-timers, yeah. But northern Vietnam definitely does experience 4 quite distinct seasons. It's not like the more consistent tropical heat you find further south. You get a definite cooler, drier winter, and then a properly hot, humid summer. The main rainy season up there, it typically hits hardest from around June to September. And we're talking high humidity, sudden, really heavy afternoon downpours. The sources even mention these rains can cause some local flooding, especially in the lower lying bits of Hanoi's Old Quarter.
Ah, okay. So what does that actually mean for you, the traveler, if you're there during those months? What should you do? Well, it means packing smart is crucial. Think quick, dry clothes, definitely. Sandals or flip-flops that can handle getting soaked are a must. And a lightweight poncho. Honestly, a lifesaver. And here's a key tip from people who live there. Don't trust that morning sunshine. Just because it's bright at 9 a.m. doesn't mean it'll last. Those afternoon downpours can materialize out of thin air.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that. What about the bigger weather events like typhoons? Do they hit northern Vietnam hard?
Well, full-blown typhoons making direct landfall right in Hanoi, that's actually pretty rare. But the edges of typhoons passing nearby, they can certainly bring strong winds and quite heavy rain. This happens particularly between August and October. And you'll feel that impact most strongly in coastal areas, places like Ha Long Bay, sea travel, boat trips, they can definitely get disrupted then.
Okay. So if you want to avoid most of that wet stuff, when's the best time to visit the north?
The general consensus really is that the prime time for northern Vietnam is October through to April. It's much cooler, significantly drier, and the scenery, especially up in Sapa or Ninh Binh, it's just stunning. But, and this is an important detail, it can get surprisingly cold in December and January. We're talking potentially single digits Celsius in Hanoi, and sometimes even below freezing up in the mountains. So if you're traveling then, you absolutely need to pack proper layers. A thin jacket probably won't be enough.
That's a really great practical tip. Layers are always the way to go. Okay, here's where it gets interesting, kind of linking back. Because if you are in Hanoi and maybe one of those sudden rainstorms, I don't know, fries your phone or your laptop gets soaked,
Yeah.
you'd be pretty glad to know about ProCare Hanoi. Fast, reliable repairs, especially geared towards expats, is definitely something you might suddenly need if you forgot to waterproof your tech. Right, moving on southwards now. Central Vietnam, Hue, Da Nang, Hoi An. Our sources flag this area as particularly tricky for weather planning. Why is that?
Yeah, tricky is a good word for it because it's dry season, which runs roughly March to August. It's absolutely gorgeous. You get hot, sunny days. It's perfect for hitting those amazing beaches around Da Nang and Hoi An. But then, come September through to December, things change dramatically. That's central Vietnam's main storm season. And it can bring really powerful typhoons barreling in from the East Sea, the South China Sea. The impact can be pretty severe. We're talking serious flooding, especially in historic cities like Hue and Hoi An. You sometimes see pictures where the streets literally look like rivers.
Wow, that sounds intense. What's fascinating, though, is how the locals deal with it. I've read that homes are often built to handle it. But how do tourists usually cope when that happens?
It's actually really insightful how local life is just adapted to it. In places like Hue and Hoi An, you'll see homes built with raised foundations, flood-resistant materials. It's just part of the architecture, showing generations of adaptation. So while tourists might see it as, a major disruption, for many locals it's just a seasonal rhythm. They often find ways to carry on. But yeah, tourists often caught completely off guard. The consequences can be anything from delayed flights, blocked roads, maybe even power outages. There is sort of transition period, though, January to February. It's cooler then, maybe a bit damp still, but generally much calmer.
Okay, so this raises an important question then. If someone's planning a trip, and maybe their only window is during those stormier months, September to December, what's the practical advice? Beyond just be flexible, any specific pro tips?
That's a really crucial question, yeah. The sources definitely hammer home flexibility. Build in buffer days, definitely. Don't schedule really tight flight connections or anything like that. Booking accommodation with decent cancellation policies. Highly recommended. And maybe, obviously, getting comprehensive travel insurance that specifically covers weather-related disruptions. That's pretty much non-negotiable for travel during those months.
Oh, and maybe one more thing. Try to stay updated with local news sources, not just the big international ones. They'll give you the most accurate, real-time picture of conditions on the ground.
Right, good point. Okay, let's keep moving south. Ho Chi Minh City, the Mekong Delta, Phu Quoc Island. Is the climate story here a bit simpler compared to the north or the center? Yes, generally it is quite a bit simpler down south. The region pretty much operates on just two distinct seasons, wet and dry, nice and straightforward. The dry season runs from about December through to April, and that brings hot, consistently sunny weather. It's a fantastic time for the beaches and Phu Quoc, obviously, but also great for exploring, the street markets, the buzzing rooftop bars in Saigon, really vibrant.
And the rainy season in the south.
Yeah.
When is that, and what's it actually like? Is it constant rain?
No, not usually constant. The rainy season is typically May through November, peaking around July and August. But during this time, what you mainly get are regular afternoon downpours. And these aren't usually those gray all-day drizzles. They tend to be fast, incredibly loud. You really hear it on the corrugated iron roofs, and honestly, they can be kind of beautiful in their own way. A real dramatic pause in the day. As for typhoons, they're much less common down here. Most tend to lose a lot of their strength before they reach the far south. Although it is worth noting, localized flooding, especially in the low-lying Mekong Delta, that can still affect travel plans. So always worth checking local conditions if you're heading down that way.
That makes perfect sense. So a little pro tip for you if you're heading south, always keep a small umbrella or one of those lightweight ponchos tucked in your day pack. You'll be glad you did. And yeah, definitely waterproof your electronics, phones, cameras, laptops. Better safe than sorry with those sudden deluges.
It's a really common assumption that you just have to avoid Vietnam during the rainy season altogether. But our sources, they actually suggest something quite different. They talk about how it can be surprisingly quite magical.
Magical? Really?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me more. How can pouring rain be magical?
Well, think about it differently. Picture maybe this steamy, almost otherworldly atmosphere in a misty Sapa village after rain, with clouds just swirling around the rice terraces. Or imagine the dramatic kind of cleansing downpour in Saigon that just briefly hits pause on the city's relentless energy. It creates this unique sort of reflective calm for a short while. It's not just about escaping the heat, it's about experiencing a different side of Vietnam, maybe a more authentic side of its character. Right. And honestly, some of the best cultural moments, the best interactions often happen when you are sort of stuck inside during a rainstorm, maybe sharing a coffee or some food with locals sheltering from the rain. That's part of the adventure, right? It can be a really unique experience you just wouldn't get otherwise.
That definitely paints a much richer picture than just avoid the rain. Okay, so what are some key strategies then that our sources highlight for maybe not embracing the rain completely, but at least navigating it effectively?
Well, beyond the packing advice we already talked about, quick dry stuff, ponchos flexibility is still number one. Build in those buffer days. Don't overschedule. Second, be smart about location. Remember how long Vietnam is? You can often sort of chase the sun. If it's pouring in the north, chances are the south might be clear, or vice versa. A short internal flight can make a huge difference. And finally, embrace the indoor gems. Rainy days are actually perfect for exploring museums, finding cozy little cafes, maybe getting a massage at a spa, or really diving deep into the local food scene. It's almost like an invitation to slow down a bit, to really immerse yourself in the culture instead of just rushing from one outdoor site to the next.
So wrapping things up, it seems like Vietnam's weather, whether you're just visiting or thinking of living here, it's definitely something to, respect, but maybe not fear. With a bit of knowledge, that rainy season doesn't have to derail everything. It just becomes part of the country's natural rhythm, from those misty mornings up north to the really booming afternoon showers down south. So plan smart, pack light, and definitely keep your sense of humor about it all, because as pretty much every expat here will tell you, it always clears up eventually. And if you found this deep dive useful, please do follow our show. And maybe share it with someone you know who's planning a trip to Vietnam. And remember, every little bit of support, like through Buy Me a Coffee, really helps fuel these deep dives. Just scan that QR code in our cover art. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and maybe just a final thought to leave you with. As you think about this, maybe consider how understanding these nuances, like a place's climate patterns, how that can actually help you connect more deeply with its culture, its whole rhythm of life.
Definitely something to think about. Until next time, stay dry if you can, stay curious, and enjoy the ride.